There are some new images and details for Marvel's Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, thanks to a newly published article by Empire magazine here in the UK. We get new details from actor Benedict Cumberbatch, producer Kevin Feige, director Sam Raimi, and much more, talking about the horror-themed approach and exciting aspects of this new MCU entry. In this video, I'm going to be discussing the images and details, breaking down the newest looks at the Doctor Strange sequel, and what we could be getting. But before I get into it, if you want to see much more videos on Doctor Strange 2, leading up to and after its May release, then don't forget to support this upload by giving it a like rating, subscribing to the channel, and turning on your notifications. Also, feel free to check me out on Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, and Instagram at Cortex Videos, which is all linked in the description below. But without further ado, let's discuss the new images and details for Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness from Empire magazine. So the new Doctor Strange film from director Sam Raimi is aiming to push the dimension hopping aspects we expect, but it's focusing at capturing all of the horror-infused potential that you would have with a film by the director attached. According to Empire, the genre-defining director of the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man trilogy is back with Marvel, and he's bringing wild new variants of familiar characters, nightmarish new worlds, and all of the cosmic consequences that come with changing the timeline. The new issue of the magazine has 2 new covers, which includes this subscriber edition that I have myself, showcasing some mind-bending artwork with many characters. But alongside this comes a set of brand new images from the film, which I will be inserting throughout the video as I discuss all the things that were said by Raimi, Feige, and much of the cast. So let's get into all of the reality-bending details that the cast and crew of Doctor Strange 2 went into, alongside what kind of movie we are going to be getting. So Benedict Cumberbatch and producer Kevin Feige start off the Empire article expressing that this is really Marvel's attempt to make a full-on horror movie in the MCU, and how it was perfect for legendary director Sam Raimi, who joins the film following Scott Derrickson's departure due to creative differences. This departure is also elaborated on in the article by the producer, and he claims that the creative approach that Sam Raimi is bringing isn't going to be lost now that he has come in to make his version of the film. But in regards to what kind of film that is, we start to learn from Cumberbatch that this is one of the genre films he wants to make in this current time. In response to being asked what he wanted to do next in acting, Cumberbatch states, "Well, a western, a horror, and a musical. Those are the 3 things. I guess I've done a version of a western, and now I've done a version of horror." And with this apparently being Marvel Studios' first horror flick with zombies and jump scares, producer Kevin Feige makes it clear that this is truly the focus. In relation to the horror tones, he says, "I think it's going to be surprising for some people, tonally about where the MCU goes." When addressing this claim by Feige, in my opinion, there have been films that have come close to branching out of the formula that Marvel typically puts to screen, and while some of the entries are really well made for an interconnecting universe, I do think there's room to really move into other genres and nudge slightly further away from that formula. I'm not saying the formula is a bad thing, because it clearly works with audiences, but to have the different kinds of films less focused on the universe stuff, or structurally different within that universe, allows for more creativity on the filmmaker's part. However, what Feige and Cumberbatch said in this opening segment does get me excited, because the horror genre is one that can really allow for that gap to be widened. And what filmmaker could come in and really put his stamp on a Marvel film with horror and create that potential? Well, none other than one of the greats in superhero filmmaking with director Sam Raimi. According to Feige in the article, Sam came to them and expressed the interest in working with them to bring something different. The producer teases that the film is very Sam Raimi in ways that will make fans of Evil Dead 2 very happy, and while they would give the quite traditional notes to him of the action is cool and we're competing with Avengers and Spider-Man, they primarily highlighted to not forget the infuse of Sam Raimi too. So this is very promising to hear, as they are basically allowing one of the great artists in the history of this genre to make the film he wants to make. And this is where Sam Raimi starts to discuss his passion for the film and the kind of creativity he is bringing to the table. The filmmaker states that he was keen to sign on for a number of reasons. There was the childhood attachment to characters like Doctor Strange and Spider-Man, who were Stan Lee and Steve Ditko creations, and then there was the fact that Raimi hadn't directed a project in numerous years. It was a chance for him to come back to the days of Spider-Man, but once again, put his own unique spin on this specific universe. And a quite cool thing he also referenced while discussing this was that if Batman was ever a film he had the chance to do, then he would snap at doing it. I'd love to see his take on a Batman Beyond film or something like that, but either way, it's just cool to see one of the greats excited about tackling another icon in the comic book genre. He continued saying, "Directing is really the only thing I know how to do, and I'm thrilled to be working once again with my old friend Kevin Feige. I guess we'll see if the unique Raimi stamp is there come this May, but of course, everything they are saying here does build anticipation. It's really the one Marvel film I am looking forward to this year, not because of all of the multiverse bending stuff that follows the events of Spider-Man No Way Home, but because of Sam Raimi and the style that he can bring to the table. In a Sam Raimi film, you expect all the crazy camera moves and eccentric montages that aren't seen very often in blockbusters. Already, the trailers do display the traditional Raimi shots we expect, and the darker yet vibrant colour palettes he aligns with, so hopefully we do in fact get that kind of movie in the horror genre. But if there's one thing we do know about this movie that we are getting, it's the greater multiverse and universe building stuff that we come to expect. Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness is set to wildly expand on the reality-bending lore that has been building throughout Loki, What If, WandaVision, and No Way Home, throwing Benedict Cumberbatch's Strange into a deeper layer of chaos. There will of course be plenty of variants, alternate universes, and according to the trailer and subscriber cover of this magazine, dinosaurs. Cumberbatch says it's a big movie, it's going to be an absolute riot, and if it brings off the level of ambition it's got, we're going to have a success on the level of Spidey. There you go, I'll put my flag in the sand. Of course, that's a tall order when it comes to the box office, but if he also means the kind of creativity that can be brought in a Raimi film on Doctor Strange, then I guess that's very possible. But what are some of the elements and characters in this magazine that are going to be used to hopefully propel that potential forward? Well, in the Strange sequel, we find him teamed up with a comic book favourite in America Chavez, a youngster with the ability to navigate her way through the various realities that make up the multiverse, set to pose all kinds of dilemmas for the central character. Sam Raimi adds in on this, stating, "Strange is still learning about the multiverse, and here's a character in American Chavez that can actually travel through it. He's such a know-it-all all the time, and to have to learn from a kid probably smarts." And it's crucially confirmed that while all of this is going on, Multiverse of Madness is a Doctor Strange story through and through, one that will get right down to the core of the character. Cumberbatch says there's a lot of reckoning and a lot of self-discovery. Strange is almost a stranger to himself before this film unfolds and reveals what essentially is in his nature that he then has to either confront or resist or fall into or become. There are some very bold ideas and some extraordinary tests of Strange and encounters. There are some very unexpected conclusions. And we'll get more into those potential encounters towards the end of this video. But what apparently makes this all different within the context of the multiverse and alternate reality stuff we've already seen in previous projects leading up to Strange is that the filmmaking itself is being considered with all of these different realities. Producer Richie Palmer said, "There are infinite worlds out there. Some are identical to ours, some are animated, and we are 2D cartoon characters with yellow skin like The Simpsons." Raimi himself further highlighted that his directing will be echoing these unique visuals. He states that the job of the director is to describe the impossible, to use lighting, sound, camera motion, the performance of an actor, to give the audience the seeds to build something terrible and fantastic in their mind. And the writer of Loki, Michael Waldron, who came on board after Scott Derrickson's departure, concluded that they tried not to be afraid of going to places that will make the audience go, "I can't believe I just saw that." They're not gonna care unless they're invested in the main character, and Strange is such a fascinating hero. So with all the universe twisting elements, the character of Strange is being dissected more than ever before, and the filmmaking is being used to show that through a unique lens. Moving on, we also got some brief notes on some of the other characters at play in this expanding multiverse, whether they be ones from the previous Doctor Strange film or those aligned with this phase of Marvel's projects. With Elizabeth Olsen's Scarlet Witch, we'll be seeing an even greater display of her powers, and from what is said here, we might even get answers on whether she's really more powerful than Strange himself. Palmer said, "I don't know who's more powerful than Wanda. Meeting the Wanda Maximoff at the end of Endgame would have been a lot for Strange. Who comes out on top as the most powerful being in this universe? Maybe we'll find out at the end of this movie." So for Strange and Wanda, Multiverse of Madness seems to be the film that's going to provide their characters with some serious personal challenges, especially since Wanda gained possession of the Darkhold book in the post-credit scene of last year's WandaVision. The producer continued saying, "Madness has many different definitions. It's maddening for Doctor Strange to have to watch the love of his life marry someone else. And it's maddening for Wanda to have to be told, there's a book and there's a chapter about you in that book you should read, and secrets you don't know about yourself." Elizabeth Olsen herself added, "I really was excited to do dialogue with Cumberbatch. I really enjoyed our constant conversation of analysis and trying to understand where both characters are coming from." And another character who is returning, this time from the previous Strange film, is Rachel McAdams' Christine Palmer. She teased that we will see a very different and much more involved Christine in Doctor Strange 2, one that isn't just wearing scrubs this time around. "I was certainly a part of things I've never seen on screen." So all the characters seem to be getting a deeper examination come this Strange film, and it will certainly be intriguing to see how they introduce characters like Wanda and build the chemistry between her and the people we already know. And then the question is, where does that all go? While bringing that question up, it does lead us into the final details shared by Empire, and that revolves around some of the multiversal things we could see come the film this May. The Marvel rumours have already kicked into gear for Doctor Strange 2, with fans theorising whether all kinds of classic characters and cameos could be included. Whether that's variants of familiar heroes, as well as surprise reappearances from faces of comic book movies in the past. Putting that into our minds was the film's previous trailer, which saw an out-of-focus Patrick Stewart, who played Professor Charles Xavier, most likely making his return. But is there more to it than just a traditional return? Producer Richie Palmer says, "I'll quote the first X-Men movie and say, are you sure you saw what you saw? There are infinite versions of these characters, and just because you may have heard something familiar doesn't mean it's someone you have seen before. And the rumours don't stop there, because a theory going around right now is that he'll show up as part of the Illuminati from the comics, which has at times featured Xavier, plus Iron Man, Mr. Fantastic, and Doctor Strange himself. So could we expect some other known faces to appear if this theory is correct? Well, Palmer says, as you saw in Spider-Man No Way Home, some rumours ended up being true, some did not. I would love to see those such as Tony again, but some rumours are just rumours. I will say that I love the Illuminati, but if we ever introduce the Illuminati in the future, it might be more MCU driven and have some more ties to our characters in the MCU versus just replicating what's in the comics. So from this, we don't know if this is them or a new take on them, but what we do know from these quotes by Palmer is that they are definitely keeping things close to the chest regarding who could show up. If big cameos do happen, I hope it doesn't make this film feel like it's powered by fan service, because the cast and crew are really emphasizing the excitement towards Sam Raimi's horror-infused style. Not to say that this would make the movie bad, but it may align it more with the formula we are used to seeing. But hey, we can only see what the outcome is when the movie comes out, and like every movie, I put my expectations at the door. So hopefully, Raimi delivers once again, just like he did with multiple films in the past, creating some of the best of the genre. But they were all the main images and details from the new Empire edition of Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. It's going to be interesting to see how this new MCU film turns out, because while I've enjoyed some of the formulaic approaches to their films, like with Spider-Man No Way Home for instance, I think this particular project with Raimi at the helm has the potential to leave its mark outside of the formula too. The new images, details and interviews here do build my excitement surrounding this point, and it shows us that we are most certainly in for something much different to what we saw in No Way Home. We'll soon find out how things go, but I'm quite optimistic towards the new film by Sam Raimi, and this new article just gives us further teases of what to expect from this fan favourite character, the story, and the type of filmmaking involved. But I'm interested to hear what you guys thought towards the new images and interviews, alongside whether you are personally looking forward to seeing Doctor Strange too. So let me know down below in the comment section. For more videos on Marvel movies and shows such as Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, then subscribe to the channel and turn on your notifications. Also, if you enjoyed this video, remember to leave a like rating and follow me on social media via the links in the description. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I've been Cortex, and as always, make some noise.